Hello and welcome to the garden. Well, there's a lot of activity in here right now with the chilies and the peppers, and I thought I'd do a quick video about pruning chilies, peppers and aubergines. They've got very similar growth habits, so I think they can all be covered in the same way. So in the greenhouse here, I've got a mixture of chilies and peppers with the longer, narrower fruit. So if we take a look at this one here, so you can see these fruits here. These are the long, thin type. This is a sweet pepper, Dolce di Bergamo. Here I've got padron. Actually, this is a pretty hefty fruit for a padron pepper. They're often taken when they're rather smaller. That's a little bit on the small side. But these can be taken when they're green, and they can be fried, and that's sort of a common tapas pepper. And when they're green, there's not much heat to them. Every now and then you find one with a little bit more heat. But yeah, these are really tasty pepper. When they go red, it's not common to see the padrons red. I think they're generally eaten when they're green, but when they're red, they've got a really nice fruity flavour. Now these I definitely want to leave to go red, and they are really good peppers this year. This is the Goria pepper, the Basque chili pepper. Yeah, I'm really quite pleased with these fruits. They're doing rather well. We've got Frigitello. That's another one that is typically harvested when pale green. And then in here, hiding away, we've got Lombardo. It's a slightly scruffy looking fruit, as they often are with this variety. But again, it's another long, thin sort, so it's well suited to growing in the greenhouse here. So these chilies and peppers, they're not bad to grow in this space, but you can see I'm going to have a problem here quite soon because I'm going to run out of height. So that's not a big problem. I will simply pinch out the tops at some point, and that's going to encourage side shoots to develop, and it will give plenty of time for the fruit on here to finish developing and ripen later in the year. Now, there are many different ways of pinching out or pruning peppers and aubergines, and it really depends on the situation. So in here, I tend not to touch them. I let them grow naturally, but sometimes I will pinch out the top if they're not doing particularly well, if they're a little bit spindly, if they're not growing particularly strongly. I will pinch out the top, and that's going to encourage side shoots to develop. So all pruning, it doesn't matter whether it's a fruit tree or a pepper, it's always based on an idea of the kind of growth habit of the plant in question. So if we take a look at a couple of these, I can show you what I mean. So this particular plant has grown this one long stem, and there are no side shoots on here. You might just be able to make out the potential start of side shoots here. Now if I were to cut this off here, I'm not going to do that now, but perhaps earlier in the season I could have pinched this out. Then in the leaf axils here, these side shoots would almost certainly have developed. At some point though, these stems will naturally start to branch. So here it's split into two, and this is quite common. Sometimes it splits into three. And in this junction here, you will find leaves, and there we find a fruit. And in each one of these splits, fruit will appear. And not all of these set, but some of these will. Now, this branch has now split again into, well, I think that's really split into two, and that one's then split again, or maybe that's just split into three. It depends how you look at it. And off it goes. It will split again and again all the way up to the top. So as this gets taller, it also gets wider. Now on some of these, you can see that these side shoots have actually started to develop. And in this greenhouse situation where I've got these, I will leave those to develop, because at some point I'm going to have to pinch out the top, and then these side shoots will carry on and give me the chance of some more fruit. So pinching out chilies when they're about yay high, that's very common advice, and it's not bad if you want a bushier plant. Now, I would certainly think about doing that if it was a small fruited hot pepper that I was growing. For larger fruited sorts, I'm not so keen on doing it. I don't want them to get too bushy, and then the fruits will be all crowded in there. So it really does depend on the variety, but small fruited hot peppers, if you want a bushier plant and the potential for more fruit, certainly more fruit lower down, then pinching them out isn't a bad idea. Now, I have pinched a few of these out because they weren't doing very well earlier in the year. This one here, for example, is one of my hot wax peppers, and well, my Joe's Long Cayenne and my Hungarian hot wax, they were all a little bit rubbish. I had bad germination, and then they were really slow to get going. So when I planted these out, I did pinch this one out, and you might just be able to make out in the center here. Well, probably not, but that's the point at which I pinched this out, and all of this branching has occurred because of that. And this is a lot better plant now. This was very long and spindly, very little development of it. It wasn't branching naturally, so pinching that out here, it's forced these fairly robust side shoots to develop, and now I've got plenty of flowers coming. It's a little bit behind the others, but I think now this one has a chance to develop into a reasonably good plant. So my general rules for where I'm growing them in pots in this greenhouse, basically leave them alone unless they're not growing particularly well and they're not branching as they should, and then I will pinch them out. And then when they get to the top of the greenhouse here, I will pinch out these growing tips, and with a bit of luck, some of these side branches that are coming from lower down will then carry on and fruit. I don't want them too bushy in here. The plants are pretty close together, so if I start pinching out too early, they're going to get very wide very quickly, and they're just going to be crammed in here. Well, they are crammed in anyway, but you can imagine if I get these growing wider lower down, I'm going to be in a bit of trouble here. I won't be able to fit in nearly as many plants as I've grown here. So that's how I do it in this greenhouse. Now, where I'm planting them in the other greenhouses and the polytunnel, the peppers and aubergines are treated quite differently. So in this greenhouse, I've got the larger fruited sweet peppers. This is Giallo d'Asti, and then I've got some of the Corno di Toro types. So again, we've got this branching habit. There are no side shoots coming on this one, and if there were, I would take them out. But here we've got the first branch. It's at a reasonable height, so I didn't pinch these out to encourage this. This is just where it's happened naturally. So this is split into two, which is exactly what I want. In some cases, they've split into three, and I've taken the third one off. What I want here is just two growing branches, no more than that. So here I've pruned off the second one. You can see possibly there I've pruned off another branch, and at every split I've just kept one branch, and you can see that I've got the fruit developing in the leaf axils. Not always, they don't always set. So, I mean, this does affect the amount of fruit you might get. Now I've got this one splitting here. There isn't actually a fruit developing here, but then this branch is going on to split, and I really don't want that. So I'm just going to nip that growth out there and there. So these two growing points are gone now. I might leave that fruit bud, but this is the stem that's going to continue on, and I will do the same with this one. I'm just going to nip that out, and that's just another fruit bud, I think. So I will leave that, and that's the stem that I'm growing on. So every time this stem splits, I will cut out one of those and just keep a single stem going. Here's another example where I've just been leaving a single stem to grow at each one of these junctions. Now, this one has set fruit. The flower that formed here and also the one that formed here, they haven't developed, and I mean, it's not a problem. I've already got 3 good sized fruits coming here. This one is set, and throughout the season more of these will set, but it's not a problem if at 1 or 2 of these positions I don't get the fruit. What I don't want though are lots more shoots. So that one there I'm going to take out. It's so small I can just pinch that off, and here this is the better of the 2 to grow on. I'll just pinch that out. You can do it when they're small like that, or then you can come along when they're a bit larger and snip them out. This is a little bit small to deal with, I think. Maybe I can get in there and just take out that growing tip. That's all I need to do. And so this will continue. At some point I will give these some support. Like usually that's been with canes, but this year I'm going to use some strings, but they don't need it yet because there's no weight on these. Hopefully, if some of these fruits develop, then they will have a bit of weight to them and I will need to string them up. So these aubergines a few weeks ago were looking really bad, but they've come on great in the last couple of weeks. I gave them a little bit of feed. I think they'd been in their pots for a little bit too long, but I gave them some feed. They've greened up lovely, and these are now very nice plants. And you can see that they've got flowers on. But I need to do exactly the same with these. And if you see here, I've got 3 stems, and I don't want 3 stems here. I'm just going to keep 2, just as I do with the peppers. I'm going to take one of those out. I've got this one on the side here. That's not a fruitful branch anyway. I will take that out. And you can see that flower there is very nice. With a bit of luck, that fruit might develop. That wouldn't be a bad place to have the first fruit. So these shoots that are coming from lower down, I really don't need those, and I can strip off these silly little leaves around the bottom. They are not going to help me. This will improve airflow, and that's rather useful. So I'll take those off. Just tidy this plant up a little bit. There's another shoot coming off there. I don't want that. It's too low. This fruit, if it develops, well, this is a fairly round fruit. It would come out here, but it's going to be well clear of the soil. Anything below this, I think, would be in danger of dragging on the ground, and that's not useful. That shoot there, that can also go. So there are my 2 chosen stems. You can see there's a new shoot developing in there, and at this stage, I mean, it's just like with tomatoes, coming through and pinching them out. And well, that's opened that up, and that's not a bad thing. I'll get better airflow around it. It's going to be a healthier plant. and it can put its energy into a few select fruits and into developing these two main branches now. And I think in the long run that is going to be more productive for me. So this one has been allowed to grow on a little bit bigger than it should have done before I tackle this job. So it's a bit crowded. I'm just going to snip out side shoots again. I will pinch off growth coming from near the base. I can pinch all of that stuff off from around the bottom here now. It's not going to serve any useful purpose at this stage. The lower leaves, the little shoots that are coming up, none of those are helpful. And then it's, well, this is split into two clear branches, and then each one of those is split further. So I can go back down, pinch off any shoots below this fork, that can come out. And I mean, this is just to tidy up the base a bit. It will improve airflow. Now I've got a nice fruit developing there in this junction. I don't want to harm that, of course. And what I need to do is look at these three branches that have formed here and decide which is the one that I'm going to carry on with. Now actually, I think I will keep this one here. I think that's the better branch, so I will snip that out and that one. Trying to be careful not to lose my potential fruit here. And then I've got to do the same on this one. And I rather like this branch on the side. It's quite vigorous. It will open this up slightly, so I will snip that one out and that one there. There's a side shoot below that. I can pinch that out. And what have I got here? That's another side shoot. So that's coming from down here. We don't need that. I don't need anything there. So now that is nicely opened up, these two will naturally spread out a little bit as they grow on and give us plenty of space for these fruits to develop. Now I really do hope these two set, because they're perfectly placed there to grow on, but they may not, who knows. But this will keep growing throughout the season and it will keep producing new buds. There's another flower coming here. At each one of these leaf axils it's going to produce flower and then a new shoot. So I can already pinch that shoot out because I know I don't want that one to come. That's the one I want here. This is the growing point I want to keep. This one's not opened up yet. I'll just leave that one alone. And now that is a lot better looking plant. I know with the camera angle it's a little difficult to see what I've been doing there, but if I just pull these leaves away, you can see that basically at every junction I've snipped out all but one of the branches, and I'm just going to leave these two growing points to grow on, and with a bit of luck we'll get some nice fruit off of this. This is a lot tidier now. I will let these grow apart a little bit. I'd be quite happy to spread these out a bit and open this up, get some nice airflow through here and try and keep these plants in good healthy condition. Doesn't do them any harm by stripping off some of the excess growth. I think if anything, it invigorates it. So yeah, couple more to do in here. As I mentioned at the start, there are many different ways of tackling pruning or pinching out of peppers, chilies and aubergines, and that's just how I go about it. I think it is fairly common amongst at least commercial growers of peppers and aubergines, and well, perhaps they're also using grafted plants to grow a limited number of stems. It might be 1, 2 or 3. I mean, an aubergine you can treat in pretty much the same way as you would a cordon tomato. You can just keep one stem and pinch out all of the side shoots. But I tend to keep 2 of those main branches going at the same time, and at some point I will have to give these some support either with canes or strings, but that's not going to be necessary for quite some weeks yet, until there's some weight of fruit on there. But anyway, that is all for this video. Thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.